In today's show, we have a multi-topic episode where first we discuss which is more effective, competition or cooperation. And then we discuss, should we tax childless people to redress low birth rates?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend. Once again, I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? What you gonna do?
That's better than we have had. That's not bad. I'm happy. 180 episodes later, and you're a bit more chirpy, bit more upbeat. I'm impressed.
Death draws ever closer, obviously. So the agony is sure to come to an end at some point. We hope.
Oh dear. Anyway, are you going to say hi to our audience, perhaps?
No. No,
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
Hello, audience.
Yay. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on with the topics for today. Now, today, time permitting, of course, we'll try and get in more than one topic. So it's a multi-topic show if we got the time, of course. And the first one we're going to start with is more a philosophical debate, and it's which is more efficient, competition or cooperation? Now, Tayo, you obviously came up with this. Why and which one do you think is the better one?
Did I come up with the word efficient, or wasn't it supposed to be effective? Which is more effective? That's our first
What did I
disagreement.
put? What did I more efficient? You're right. I'm not reading it right. Which is more effective?
More effective.
Yes,
I think.
effective competition.
Did
not
you go and prep
efficient.
for it? Did you go and prep for efficient?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that should be an easy win for me.
Oh dear.
Now I
Yes,
feel
I
chirpy.
typed
Excellent.
it wrong. Great. Okay. Oh dear. What's more effective?
What's more
Competition or
effective?
cooperation? There you go. I've said it right now.
Good. All right. So, yes, it's a simple philosophical question I came across in my meanderings on the internet, and I just thought it intrigued because I think I'm right. I suspected, and I think I'm right, that you and I would have very different ideas, and that's the sort of those are the topics we
Possibly,
like
yes.
best.
It really, well, I don't know
Well,
because I
I'll
haven't
set up.
revealed what my view is. So,
Okay, I'll
and
set up
you,
my stall.
okay.
I'm for competition. I think that competition is the most effective way of dealing with competition, because obviously both cooperation and competition deal with strategies, are two different types of strategies, not types, are two different strategies for dealing with competition. How do you approach a competition? Do you cooperate and work with others to achieve your goals, or do you compete against others to achieve your goal? So this is what I think, and I believe that just the nature of the universe is that competition is more effective than cooperation in many cases.
Right. I'm glad you caveated that. In many cases, yeah, I don't think it's in many cases. It depends on the situation. Do you remember Dante's Inferno?
I never read it.
Ah, okay. There's a famous piece. I think it came from that book where there were two rooms, and I think this was purgatory. And one of the rooms, there were people sat around a table, all miserable. But the table was full of food, delicious things, but everyone was miserable. And what was determined was that everybody had a big a big knife, not a knife and fork, a big spoon and a fork tied to their respective arms. So they couldn't grab anything with their hands. They had these huge hands and feet, huge fork and spoon on the end of their hands. And they struggled to pick up the food to feed themselves because their arms were too long. They couldn't get to their mouth, and everyone was miserable. But then he went into a different room, and everybody, pretty much exactly the same scene, but everyone was happy, everyone was full, everyone was eating and getting on and content. And the reason for that was, in the first room, everyone was competing with each other to eat, whereas in the second room, everybody was feeding the person directly opposite them, and they were doing the same. So they were cooperating and eating and having fun. So it depends on the situation. There's not one exclusively better than the other, because I'm for competition. Of course I am. I'm not against it, but it has its place. If you have, my view is this, if there's a single goal where there can only be one winner, then competition is the way forward, because you're all competing for the one single prize. And that's fine. You got to have competition there, because everyone strives to be the best and achieve that win, whatever it is. But if many people can grab the prize, then cooperation is the way forward, because you're cooperating together to accelerate getting to that prize as a collective. So you share the winnings. So it really depends on the situation.
So if you're sitting manacled to others and with these long utensils affixed to your hands, it would appear in the first instance to be a cooperative environment. But if you get someone who's got a couple of snazzy ideas, for instance, a tire type character, who wants a piece of chicken wing that you want? It does come down to, cooperate. You can feed me with this chicken wing, or I can feed you the chicken wing, but I can't feed myself with the chicken wing, correct?
Correct.
So at this point, it augurs well for me to, if that was the right expression, to turn to my neighbor and offer him blandishments to induce him to work with me, which is cooperation, right?
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal is I am competing for something. So that cooperation is negative. So when you said that if there are many outcomes, we can cooperate because we can each get what we want.
Yes.
Okay. So when I was thinking about this episode, when I was thinking about it, I said, look, if there are 30 of us and there are 30 humans and there are 5 ogres, and these ogres are defending a hoard of gold, but there's enough gold for the 30 of us if we all survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we can band together and attack the 5 ogres.
So cooperation.
That's cooperation, right? But when we get back to the village, we're all equally wealthy.
Okay.
Right? And I might not be the most handsome of the knights who are attacking the ogre. If I was richer than the others, I might then win the hand of the fair maiden, because she will come presumably to the richest. Especially if I'm the only.
A number of assumptions there.
Especially if I'm the only richest one, because the others have mysteriously not made it back.
So you cooperate and then you compete and then you kill them.
The reason I bring it up like this, is that cooperation is a stage in a competition at which ultimately there is going to be what's the other one? Cooperation and what?
Competition.
Eh?
Cooperation or competition,
yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Competition or cooperation, yeah.
Yeah, so but what did I say earlier about the two strategies in what? Two strategies in achieving an end. There are two.
Yeah.
So these are two strategies. Okay, so competition is a strategy for achieving the end, and but I'm saying that I'm saying that cooperation takes you so far, but ultimately it is about the satisfaction of the id. It is I that wants to be satisfied. Ultimately, it's me. Now, another example, I'm going to let you jump in a second. Another example is this, and it's a very common one. We're working for a company, same company.
Yep.
Now, obviously, we both want the company to be successful.
Indeed.
Right?
If we do, yeah, we equally share the profits of the company. Yeah.
Well, even though we're just workers, we don't want the company to fail because we don't want to start job hunting and we don't know where we're going to end up.
Okay.
So we both want the company to succeed, but you really think that the southeast of England is where it's at. It's where we should focus. And I really think, no, we should focus on I'm just giving an example here. We should focus on Scotland or whatever. It doesn't matter. So we have this difference of opinion. Now, our boss could say to us, look, stop arguing, right? Work together, because for some funny reason we can't do it. I can't just focus on Scotland and you can't just focus on
the
southeast because there are shared resources. Okay. So we have to cooperate with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And the boss says, I just want to see a plan, and I want this plan to be equitable, and I want the two of you to make sure that you share the resources fairly. So we've got to cooperate with one another, but we are fundamentally in competition.
Yes.
Even though there's just this supposedly one goal of making the company great, but it's the company great because I did it, or it's the company great because you did it, because that leads to promotion. So there
is competition, absolutely.
Yes. And I'm trying to say
it's competition between individuals, but the company want cooperation. So they have to enable the cooperation in a group that by design, if we can use that term, are in it for competition, because it's survival of the fittest in a way, because you've got to survive to succeed. If you're weak, guess what? You get trodden on and you die. So the survival of the fittest applies in companies, but the company won't get ahead if you have too many people like that, because they have a common goal. They want the benefit for the company. So they want all these competitors to cooperate. So there is a conflict there. Individuals want to be competitive, to be above their peers, but the company want everybody, yes, to strive, but together. So cooperatively, they bring an end result to the company.
Yes, but we have to work together in cooperation for the company to survive.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that I necessarily want you to succeed. However, if I have to be careful with how badly I stop you from succeeding. Because if we lose the southeast to a rival, that might enable them to dominate our industry.
Yes,
it's very finely balanced.
It is.
But at the end of the day, I am still competing not only against you, but also against the other company.
Well, yes,
right.
But yes, of
so
course.
It is all about competition. And it is the competition that so go up one more level, go up to the level now of the country. The country doesn't care which company survives, because what the country is going to depend on is that whichever survives is the fittest and the best. And so competition is knocking heads together, and then it's coming out with the very best company on top. So actually, the prime minister doesn't care which of us wins, company A or company B, just as long as one wins.
Not necessarily, because if one company dominates for the detriment of everybody else, he's not going to be that happy with that either, because in a capitalist system, which we have, yes, you want to encourage competition because that creates innovation. However, you don't want one company being too dominant where the competition is then removed.
So that's with Microsoft.
Well, that's exactly what happened. If a company has more than 40% of market share, they're deemed as too powerful. And
what is it? There's a word for it. There's a proper word
there
for
is a
it.
proper word for it. There, gosh, I can't remember.
Yeah,
And market dominance. They
there's
do
a
have
word for it.
market dominance, and they then can influence the market, and they could put other companies out of business because they call the shots. And it's not a cabal because that's
No,
more than
I
one,
know.
but it's it'll come to me. It'll come to me. But
Eventually.
yeah, but yeah. So you do want competition. That's what you want in a capitalist system. But you also want if there's a common goal that needs to be found, you don't necessarily want competition. You want collaboration and cooperation.
This is what you're
So
saying. What you're saying is that if the company becomes, it's not a cabal, it's not a hegemon, but I think we're skirting around the name of the thing.
yeah, I know.
I bet there are
something.
listeners and viewers screaming that, look, you numpties, it's
It's this.
it's this.
I know.
When a company anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the way it's dealt with. It's not that it's bad. It's just the way it's dealt with. For example, again, Microsoft, I'll pick on Microsoft because they're a good example of this. They were buying up all their rivals.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I remember, and this is going to show my age. For those people who are old enough to remember, there was this beautiful suite of programs, and they were called WordPerfect and Lotus 123.
Yeah, okay. They didn't buy them out. They just brought out a product that just was far superior, and
I
the
thought they bought
others were
them out.
left
No, I thought
behind.
they bought them out in the end.
No. They
In fact, I
didn't.
thought that they absorbed them and took their trade secrets and actually took the, and then just because those, I mean, Lotus 123 was wonderful. It was
Yeah, it
just
was.
did
But
what.
this was before GUI, graphical user interface. It was
Well,
done with keyboard on a black screen, and
yeah, well,
you didn't
like I
have a
said, I'm sure.
mouse.
Like I said, I'm showing my age now.
And functionally, it was brilliant, and it was actually a better product. But
It was
because
actually a better
yeah,
product, right?
but because of the
And I think
GUI
Coral Draw,
interface.
the other one that annoyed me, because I was actually annoyed at the time that they took it, they bought it. That's why I think they did buy it. I think they bought it and then they just killed it off. They didn't run it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't buy it and then say, okay, we'll maintain it for people
Or
who like it.
integrate it into ours and improve ours. No,
They
it was
just killed it off. And you're just like, well, what the heck? And then the other one I think was Coral Draw, I think, or its competitor. And that was wonderful, and that was easy to learn, and that was all these wonderful things. And then somebody bought it, and all of a sudden you just couldn't, anyway. So it's the way it's controlled, the way competition is controlled by the state. Obviously the first thing is you're getting too big. I believe the EU is upset with, is it Google, and accusing them of unfair practices or something.
Anti-competitive behavior.
Anti-competitive behavior, because they get into. That's one way to do it. The other way, which I think is probably a fairer and a better way, is, well, why don't you just start your own? If the EU feels that way about Google, well, all right then, create a search engine in the EU. Give them loads of
It's
experts.
not China. They're not able to do that, and they don't have the expertise. Because
you can buy expertise with money.
You can, but in China, for instance, they've done that because they've got their own versions of Weibo, and there's another one that's similar to.
Apparently, Weibo is huge over there.
It's massive. Exactly.
It does everything. It's more than Google. It runs their lives or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. It does all their buying as well, but it's all government controlled. That's why they've done it, because they.
Oh yeah, I'm not suggesting that the EU should control it. No.
EU are not in the business of that. So
yeah, they should start it. No. You start a competitor, fund it properly, bring in the expert, and then that's competition.
But then you're now
and then let it go, and then you can then privatize it. Was it public? Was it when you sell shares?
Yeah, you sell the shares. You make it a public company. Yeah, but that takes time and effort. And what's the chance of being a success?
Well,
you see,
why
it's
not?
easier
why
to
not?
it's easier to stop. No, you stop the competition from being too anti-competitive. That's the rules.
You can then cheat by punitive taxes and things like that.
No, but then that's not a level playing field. Then those other companies,
neither is Google. Google is not a level playing field.
Google could then go use its solicitors and its massive wealth to to stymie the EU if the EU went down that route and say, well, that's an unfair competitor because they're being funded by the state. So Google could equally cause a ruckus and say, look, you're doing this. What's easier is to ensure that Google are not behaving in an anti-competitive fashion by tightening the laws. That's all. And that's far, far easier than trying to create a rival.
Well, they haven't done it. They haven't been able to do it. You say it's far easier, but they haven't done it.
Well,
it's not actually easier.
Google have been fined. They've paid their fair share of fines, and
it's peanuts.
Well,
I mean,
I don't want
to
to say
Google,
it's peanuts. It's quite significant. But yeah.
Listen, if you start taking percentages of annual income or of capitalization, I mean, really, that's the key. You say, okay, you know what, 10% of the capitalization. Now you're talking serious money. Now you're talking 1.2 trillion.
It's the same as the GDPR stuff. That works the same way. If a company is too blasé with data, GDPR rules are, and if there's a data breach because of it, the company is fined 5%, or could be 7% of its global turnover.
Right, so that hurts.
That's huge.
But this, I hope I'm not confusing Google and Amazon. But what the EU is finding was like millions. You know, it's 10 million. 10 million?
No, that's nothing.
That's in the till of one of their little offices in the backwater somewhere. Just pick it up get in touch with Tony and ask him to check his back pocket or something. He's always on holiday anyway. Let's make Tony actually do some work for once. Go up to Brussels and pay off the fine, man. Right? I mean, it's nonsensical. It's nonsensical. No. So anyway,
once my new book comes out, then maybe, you know,
you want to
plug it while I'm here. Why not? Boris the Brick, children's book. Yeah, why not?
TNT talk. Do you know the TNT talk show is really going down?
Anyway, let's move back on to the
it's
point.
Really going down nowadays. Who are you competing with?
Yeah.
Did you cooperate with anyone?
I did with my wife.
Okay.
We created.
Are you competing?
Together. Am I competing with one
Are
another?
You competing? You know, your book, is it in a market? Is it going to compete for market share? Of
course it is. It's going into a packed children's marketplace. Of course it is.
Right.
But it's slightly different from the rest. It's got a unique selling point while we're talking about it.
Did you think about cooperating with someone who's already in there to incorporate things or anything like that?
No, but what we did do, I did pay for advice on how to get it out there and market it and design it and all the rest of it. I didn't do that myself. So I did get cooperation from someone who's done it before. That's wise. You're buying in expertise, and that's the way forward. So, because I didn't have that knowledge, so I bought it in and I cooperated with them, and they enabled me and Julie to release this book, which goes live in January in Kindle format and in a physical format as well. So you can buy it for your children, and it's Boris the Brick. So if anyone's bored while they're listening to this, go to boristhebrick.co.uk or .com, and you'll be confronted by a website, and you can learn all about Boris and his exploits, and including to buy the book once it's available. Aww. There you go. That's my plug. And it's cooperation and not competition. Well, it will be when it's live. So it actually segues well into the topic of today. There you go.
Yeah, there'll be cooperation, but the ultimate aim, as I say, is competition.
It is.
It is the competition element that is going to be more effective for what you're doing.
Well, like I said, it's twofold. I needed the cooperation.
You could have researched it. I mean,
I could have done. It would have taken me a lot longer. So what you're doing by cooperating is you're creating shortcuts. You're filling in the gaps in knowledge from other people. That's the whole point of cooperation. So you get to an end result far, far quicker because they have a knowledge that you don't have, and you share resources or share knowledge, or you share principles or strategies. So that's the cooperation bit. That then enables you to get to an end goal. And then once it's in the market, then yeah, you're now in, once you've got the finished product, you're now competing against others who have done the same thing.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think about a situation. Well, I'm not sure that just off the cuff like this, I can come up with a strategy where you could have competed rather than cooperated to get a better outcome for researching that book. So I'll put it in the back. I'll put it on the back burner and see if I can come back to it later.
I think
I'm going to give you a hypothetical.
Okay.
You're in a squad now in the army.
Yep.
And we're at war. Obviously, that's the ultimate competition because life and death is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your squad mates, they need to cooperate with you, and you need to cooperate with them.
Yep.
But do you realize that when it comes to the sergeant selecting one of you to go forward to recce the enemy's position, it's probably best if it's not you.
Only because of what? The chances of dying are increased?
Yes.
But the army instill a belief in its troops that they are together. They're one unit. They hold each other's back. They hold each other to account. So any one of them would take it as an honor to go and do the recce on behalf of their squad mates.
So putting aside all the kumbaya stuff, back in the real world, when your dongly bits are on the line, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah, when your dongly bits are on the line, you don't want to be the one that's picked out. This is real. Now this is like Tayo's reality kind of time, okay? Not nice fluffy.
So where do heroes come from then?
They're the poor suckers who were chosen to go out there, and they went out there and they either got killed or they came back, so
as a hero. Yeah, so people crave the accolade that comes with being heroic in a way. Yeah, so that's a challenge that they put themselves through, knowing full well that they may not even survive. But they do it anyway.
Nothing to do with cooperation. I'm saying that in the midst of cooperation, that's the ultimate situation where cooperation is at the premium. Even there, in that situation, it is best if you win the unspoken competition of not being the one to be picked to go forward.
But surely that's losing rather than winning. Because that's a reverse competition, because the one who's picked is not the loser. The one who's picked is the winner. That's how they see it. So they're all fighting to be picked.
If I was there, I don't know. If I'm ever in your squad, man, you can volunteer, baby, all the time. Hey, Tony, you want to rock up? You want to rock up here, man? You with your I want to be a hero thing. Here's my gun. Go off you. Off you go, man.
Oh, dear me. Have you ever worked in a team like a sport, for instance, where you have to be in a team and work together? Because think about it. Football team. I know you dislike football, but
I was going to come to football, by the way. Yeah.
I've played at a reasonable level in football, and you do rely on your teammates. You have to cooperate for the team to win. In that team, you want to be the best.
Yeah.
But you still want the team to win. You can't win on your own. You have to cooperate as a team.
Mm-hmm.
But you still want to strive to be the best player, but you're still cooperating with a team around you.
Have you heard
you can't succeed otherwise.
Have you heard the expression hogging the ball?
That doesn't make you a team player and doesn't make you the best player either. Of course, I've heard of that expression. Yeah.
But the people who score the most goals tend to be the most competitive, who hang on to the ball quite a lot.
Not true.
No? I'm not a football
The ones who
expert.
score the most are the teams that cooperate the most. The ones with the individuals.
I'm talking about the individuals, yes. Okay.
No, the ones individuals, no. You might have a slightly stronger player in a team, But
Messi, for example.
yeah,
I know.
but he couldn't have won all the trophies that he's won. His team has won it. He was a catalyst because he was such a good player, but he didn't do it all on his own. He relied on the cooperation of his teammates to give him the ball when he ran around in certain positions.
So if I looked at the amount of time he had the ball compared to others in his team, wouldn't he be the one who had the ball the most?
No, the midfielders would. The strikers actually have the ball less.
I can't argue because I don't really know football.
Yeah.
But my instinct is that that's not true.
No, that's not the case. He was a bit of a dribbler because that's where he started. He was an attacking midfielder. But you've got other players who have got even scored more goals than him, like Cristiano Ronaldo. And he hardly touched a ball. But when he did, he was ruthless. He would score. So he scored, I can't say thousands, hundreds of goals throughout his career. But if you had to see his statistics of how long he had the ball, it would be far less than some of the other teammates. But
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that.
His end result, because his skill was so high, his end result was common that he'd get a goal. So his success rate was incredibly high. He didn't need to have that many shots to score goals. He was just incredibly accurate, had a powerful shot, could bend it. He could do all sorts of things. So he didn't have to hog the ball that often. He just needed to be his teammates to give him the ball and he would score. I mean, I give you an example where cooperation isn't as good for him, even though he's still a top player, was when he played for Real Madrid. His teammates were brilliant, almost on par with him. So as a collective, they won everything. He then left Real Madrid and went to an Italian team, Juventus. And he was by and large the best player in that team. His teammates were good, but not the same level as Real Madrid that he'd left. So they still had success, but nowhere near the success level of Real Madrid because the team didn't cooperate anywhere near as good as when he was with Real Madrid. Now, he shone when he got the ball and did score, but not to the same degree as in Real Madrid. So in football, the team is everything.
Did he score more goals or fewer goals than when he was in Real Madrid?
Fewer goals. In Real Madrid, he was breaking all sorts of records. But in Juventus, far less. And then he left Juventus and came to Manchester United in the UK, and he got even less goals because the team there was even worse. He went back there because that's where he started, really.
Yes.
And so, but the team there was nowhere near as good as
Probably
Juventus.
Should have mentioned football.
Real. Well, it fits this narrative really well because football.
Well, because it works for you. Because I can't really argue. You could be telling me a whole bunch of lies, and I wouldn't know. And then 2 weeks later, I go, hang on a minute, hang on, and it's too late by then. So
it's a good example that you brought up because it actually expresses the point really well. I'm not saying, just to clarify this, I'm not saying cooperation and competition, one is exclusively better than the other.
No, I am saying so.
Yeah, you are.
I shouldn't have said anything about blooming football. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I'm not saying.
I knew there was a reason I hated football anyway. So
you're saying that one exclusively is better. I'm not. I'm saying both.
I'm saying that
have a place.
I'm saying that competition is the true heart of struggle, of competitive struggle. That sounds a bit circular.
Word, yeah,
it's like almost a circular kind of argument, which is obviously illogical. So I'm looking for another word for competition, but struggle. That in struggling to achieve an end, which is another definition for competition, isn't it? That ultimately that's what matters, and that cooperation is a subset of that. In other words, that competition is a superset and is the reality. So do you understand what I'm trying to say? That
I get it, but this is what I mean. That's why you've got the two have to work together in a way. Strangely, you have one.
One
you can't have one without the other.
Effective in the end, because it's what's really happening.
Well, competition is singular. Yeah. You have a
Mm.
company that's successful and individuals that's successful. Individual one.
Mm.
Yeah. Cooperation is where people pool all their resources
All their
together
resources.
for an end result. And like I said at the beginning, if the goal can be shared, then it makes more sense to be cooperative. But if there's only a single goal that can't be shared, then why are you cooperating? Unless the people cooperating are not interested in the goal where one individual is. So what you're doing is you're cooperating to allow the individual that competitive advantage to win. And in a way, that is exactly what happens for athletes in the Olympics, for instance. They're competing against other athletes, but they have a team who cooperate with them to make sure that the competitor who competes is at their top level. They're the prime. They're fit. They're taking all their nutrients. So they cooperate with him or her to ensure that they have got everything at their tip top position in order for them to go into the arena and compete against the others.
Well, I'll take that example and bend it slightly, and perhaps using a little bit of sophistry, which might not be really au fait and all that sort of thing. If au fait is the word phrase I'm looking for. If the competitor cooperates with the competition, with the people he's competing against, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that he bets against himself and is cooperating with the others to throw the game, like a boxer who throws a game. He is, in one sense, he's cooperating with his opponents.
Yes.
Well, that's a bad form of cooperation.
It is.
Right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And now if the again, the people supporting the competitor, like his trainer or something, if they what's that word called? Spike. If they spike his drink for themselves, right? Competition comes to the fore. They personally make money and say, stuff this corporation of yours, bud. I don't care about your stupid gold medal. I want to make money. I want money. Do you remember that song by the Flying Lizards, which was itself based on a song by the Beatles? I just want money. Right? Yeah, just I love the realism of that song. Just give me money. That's all I want.
Or what about the one with what was that film? Show Me the Money. Show me the money. Show me that was
Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, Jerry Maguire. That was a good film.
Yeah,
Tom Cruise. Yeah. Show me the money.
So when you say cooperation to a certain degree, but this is my entire point, that actually at the end, I mean, I know it's what do you call it now? That was the grunt. I know it is an idiomatic expression, something we use all the time. So something we use all the time, and it's boring because it's a cliche. I know it's a cliche, but what was I going to say now before I got worried about the word cliche?
I don't know. I'm not in your head. I don't know.
Show me the money. Show me the money. I know it's a cliche. I've forgotten, it's gone. This old manitis thing is getting out of hand. It's really getting out of hand.
You see, okay. Did you know
all I was trying to say is that I know. I was complaining because I said at the end of the day, which itself is a cliche. That's what I was complaining about.
I see. Right. Okay.
So boiling down to brass tacks, another cliche. When all is said and done, is another cliche. I can't get out of this. All I want to say
we're going to reel him off now. Go on.
Final analysis. Yeah. I want to get away from this and say what I'm trying to say in the end. What I'm trying to say is that competition is the actual true struggle. That cooperation is cooperation is a type of competition. Now that doesn't sound right, but it doesn't sound right. But cooperation is to enable competition. Do you see? cooperation is the reason you cooperate is because you are competing. So actually, cooperation is a
Enabler.
shade of competition. It's a type of competition. It's a type of involving yourself in a competition.
Or is it
Like,
an enabler?
well, the example you gave of the people surrounding an athlete, they are competing against people surrounding another athlete.
Yes.
Right? So they're cooperating with their own athletes, and they're cooperating with themselves, obviously, with their team to help athletes A. But there's others. So you may talk about you can break it down and talk about the cooperation, but what is actually going on is a competition. So I am right in that actually it's competition that drives virtually everything.
It does drive it, but it can't. It's almost like the question that we raised at the start of this show was which is more effective or even efficient, which I misconstrued, but efficient is still fine as effective. The thing is, it's almost like competition could exist without cooperation, but it will fail more often without it.
Well, this was your Ronaldo
analysis.
This was your Ronaldo analysis. But is it a frank and fair analysis? Wasn't Real Madrid wasn't the cooperation from the other players that allowed Real Madrid to win? It was the fact that the other players were better than Juventus players. One on one, they were better. They weren't of the same.
Well, obviously they were all better.
Well, that's the thing. So it wasn't the cooperation. Matter if
you've got, but someone has said, and I think it's even been proven in games where you've put a team that have got average players together but who cooperate will perform better than 11 superstars who are individuals who are just.
It sounds like the English football team every time they go out there. They're all individually, they're all pretty good, but they just never seem to just gel together.
That was a genuine problem. Absolutely right. On paper, they had 11 superstars in the team, but they never complemented one another. They never cooperated with one another for the end goal. So you can only get so far. In a team sport, you have to cooperate. You have to. It just there's no progression. And in a corporation, it's technically a team sport because you can't make a company be efficient on competition only. You have to have cooperation. Individually, yes, you're right. There has to be a level of competition because competition enables that element of striving to push the boundaries, to be better. So absolutely. But to succeed, you need the cooperation alongside the competition. They go hand in hand.
When I worked in the factory, stacking and labeling stuff, stacking stuff and labeling stuff, I thought to myself that the management was missing a trick. That had we been formed into groups and given targets and then given bonuses based on achieving or overachieving those targets, that the competition would have been fair. So if there's just one single pot of, say, whatever it is, X amount of pounds, a single pot, say, right, those who achieve the most books stacked or whatever it is, or label, whatever, those who achieve the most go home with, that team goes home with £500 tonight, for example. I think that the productivity of the place would shoot through the roof.
Of course it would.
Because everyone will be striving. That's competition. That's no cooperation. Huh?
That's cooperation because the team succeed rather than the individual. If one person's not pulling his weight, guess what? They are going to get on his back and say, you're part of this team. You have to pull up together. Why is it that they've shown this in the wild with horses? If you've got the strongest mare or the strongest
stallion,
what about the ones that pull big weights? What are they called? Are they stack horses or what are they?
Horses.
Those big horses, the really big that pull big, huge weights. They're massive horses.
I've seen them. I've seen them up close and personal.
Yeah, they're
in Wales.
huge. Yeah, they're huge.
Cheshire.
Shire horse. There you go. Yes.
Shire horses.
Yes. Well done. Shire horse. It can pull a tremendous amount of weight.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're massive. Those
They
ones.
worked out that it could pull something like 2-3 tons on its
Goodness.
own. Okay. But when you put two together, how much do they pull?
Not 6 tons, obviously.
No. It's 10 tons.
10 tons.
10. How? Cooperation. When you put people together, strangely enough, they complement each other because they're competing, but they're competing in a complementary team. And so they all
messed up our
strive.
entire debate, isn't it? Cooperation is a form of advantageous competition.
But did you know that even because the two do work hand in hand, they've coined a new term. And I'm going to enlighten our listeners and viewers with this new term.
What's this new term?
It's called coopetition.
Oh my God.
I know. Okay. Coopetition. It involves collaborating with competitors on some aspects of a business. So while competing with them on others. So
who's coming up with who is coining these new phrases?
Don't. I think the word is shocking.
Horrid.
It's awful. But then again, that's what happens. You get some, consultancy company to justify their corn. They'll come up with things like this. And there you go.
Well, you know what? If I had told you what you've just told me, that the Shire horses pull 10 tons instead of 6 tons.
I mean, don't quote that exact figure. It's a high figure, more than the
you
one
would
on
say
its
to me, I'd like to see where that came from. So I'm going to say to you, I'm going to go back. All right, well, I want to see where you got that from. I want to see the study. I want to know who wrote it, blah, 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 yada, yada. All the things you tell me.
So do you disbelieve that then?
Yeah.
You don't think that a single
No, because it's a bit magical. I mean, one can
magical.
Yeah, it is. If one can pull let's say 2 tons.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the figures a bit.
Okay.
Let's say 2 tons. You'd expect 2 of them to
do 4.
Max 4 tons. But actually, I would expect one of them to slack off a bit because there's a mate. So really, I'd be looking for 3.5 tons.
No, in fact, it's the opposite.
I definitely wouldn't be looking for more. So I do really want to see that. I really want to see.
Okay, I will find that and I will share it alongside this episode.
Excellent.
So that I'll actually make a note now.
Excellent. Oh, don't worry, I'll remind you constantly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Right. We have time for another topic if we want to, because I think unless you wanted to talk more on this particular one.
Yeah, I think this one I ran into headwinds with your football analysis, which maybe I should look into just to double check that your memory is accurate.
What's this? You don't trust your fellow colleague? We're cooperating on a show. Come on.
Oh no. No, that's it. No, obviously. I mean, no.
Okay, let's just sum up then. Sum up before we cover a quick topic as well.
I ran into headwinds. If what you said about Ronaldo or Ronaldo, I don't know what his name is.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
If what you say about him is accurate and turns out to be true, and the Shire horses turns out to be true, then yeah, I accept that I may not be absolutely spot on when I say competition is more efficient.
I think
than cooperation. But
I think you're right. It's needed. You can't just have cooperation for cooperation's sake. There has to be some element of competition, so they do go hand in hand for sure, rather than just one being better than the other. But competition underpins it all. Well, no, it doesn't. Cooperation underpins competition for success. You need cooperation. It's very rare somebody could do it all on their own without any cooperation from anyone. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We have got a few more moments to discuss another topic. And this again was an interesting one. This is because of the problems that we're getting with birth rates in the Western world. Should we consider taxing childless people to redress the low birth rates,
Mhm.
because that may encourage them to have children and then repopulate the populations where they're sadly shrinking and going down, which is putting a strain on the finances for the future, of course. What's your view?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people don't like immigration and immigrants. But at the same time, they do want to have a less stressful retirement. So if you don't like immigrants and you don't like immigration and all that sort of thing, you've got to come up with some kind of plan to fund your old age. Otherwise, the birth rate won't sustain it. I believe that I read very recently that the UK's birth rate is 1.54, 1.58, something
Yeah,
like
you need it to be over 2.
2.1 is the
Oh,
minimum.
right. Gosh.
Is the minimum. So we are not replacing ourselves. I mean, I was explaining it to my students the other day, and I said, if you think about it, a man and a woman have 2 children. That's how they replace themselves. But not all children make it into maturity. So you need a point something
To
that
make
is
it
just
more.
to make it more, because you have
Mm.
to you have to account for the losses, and that's just to sustain your population. If you really want to grow your population, I believe it's 2.2 or 2.3, something like that, is for actual growth.
Mm.
So then we are, and I believe this is a topic we're going to more or less discuss at a future date when we talk about pornography and the young. But I won't touch upon it now. Apart from saying that our societies have become extremely hedonistic, and we treat sex as a leisure activity, not as a responsibility, not as something that we do for procreation, and that the hedonism that is a part of it is icing on the cake, so to speak. So if we didn't treat sex as almost a casual sport, that everybody could play at will, but we treated it as I believe the older generations did, the generations before us did, that it was a nice to have, but you had to do it within what they called holy matrimony, in serious circumstances, knowing that it was likely that you would have children, and so who's going to look after the children? If you treat it that way, then society will start rebirthing at a good clip. Not for example, but not forget. Well, I won't interrupt myself. I'll come back to it. So, getting childless couples to pay, if you like, almost punitive taxes is not to encourage them to have children, because I don't think anything would encourage them to have children. What it is that you should take those taxes and not use it to fund bombs in Ukraine, but use it to store a pension for this same couple when they grow old. This is what I mean.
So
So
you
then you don't.
repurpose the money
Yes.
elsewhere.
So what you're not doing is that you're not depending on other immigrants coming from other countries to come in and to pay taxes. These people who don't have children have to pay more tax because they have to look after themselves when they grow old. So that money needs to be set aside and used very sensibly, and not as especially the British government loves to do, just borrow it and use it and put it into other things that it was never intended for.
People would probably have more children if they could afford to have more children, because in the past, where we didn't have problems with population numbers, it was because you could sustain a household, not easy, but you could do it with just one
One income
breadwinner in
earner.
quotes. Yeah. So one could choose to stay at home and bring up children. Now, because of house prices and under investment in cheap property, so property now has skyrocketed way beyond the budget of most people. The only way people can afford housing is by both the couple having to work, which that puts added strain on having children, and so it makes it harder to do. So if the government genuinely wanted to fix this problem, you don't want to tax people. What always got to do with tax? Why is it always tax? I mean, that's nonsense. What they should do is somehow allow either childcare to be free, so that it would
Who will pay for that?
incentivize. Yeah,
Who will pay for that?
what, the government have to pay for it?
Well, the government doesn't earn money. I mean, government
Well,
doesn't.
the population will cause the government to have no money if they don't sort it. This is a critical issue where population are declining, so they have to do something.
No, what I'm trying
Instead
to
of
say is
using the money for weapons, use
money
it
doesn't
for
money doesn't generate. Government doesn't generate
no,
wealth.
but they
So the tax. You were saying why does it always come back to tax? It always comes back to tax because that's how the government
no,
gets
but
money.
you don't tax childless couple. That's ineffective as a population control.
No, I say if you tax childless couples, then you wouldn't be tackling the population problem. What you'd be doing is you'd be tackling the old age problem, because when you tax them all their lives extra because they didn't have children, then what the children that they would have had that would work and pay taxes to keep them in their old age, they've paid for that. Do you see what I'm saying? So you don't need to worry about your population. Your population shrinks, but those are the breaks.
Well, you know that the original pension system, when it was first brought in, it wasn't funded by the pot from a government. What happened was they said, right, everyone, I think it was brought in the 1950s, and they said, right, everyone is paying a pension. Everyone has to pay into a pension.
NI, national insurance.
Yeah, national insurance, yeah. And people who retire, and they gave it, I think, a 5-year, and then the people who retired in I don't know the year, but I think it may have been 55, say. So 55, they will get a state pension. So think about it. The people who got to 55, they hadn't been paying national insurance.
Mm.
And how the government did it is they were actually taking the money from the young people paying national insurance and giving it to those over 65 or 60 at the time as the pension. So they were recycling the money. Yeah. So it wasn't being saved in a pot anywhere. It was just being recycled. And why we're having this problem is because back then there was 8 children or young people paying national insurance contribution for every old person who was hitting 60. There was 8. It was an 8-to-1 ratio. So it had plenty to go around. Because people are living longer and less people are being born, that number has dropped to 4. In fact, I think it's down to 3 even now. So there's 3 people paying your pension with national insurance contributions today. Because the government haven't got this endless pot. They just keep recycling the money. And this is where the issue is. So when we get to, when our kids get old, it's going to be almost a 1-to-1 ratio. And if that person's sick, they're going to get nothing. So the problem is because they've never had a pot set aside that the government have accumulated for state pensions. There never has been. It's been recycled money. And that's why we have the problem with the pension system and the population shrinking.
There are 2 things they can do in that case. One, they can just outright ban abortions, because I understand that that there are about 250,000 children, abortions performed, and I believe I'm right. If anybody wants to correct me and say no, you're talking nonsense, okay, I'm sorry, but I believe that's just in Wales. That's 250,000 just in Wales alone.
Really? From a population of 3 million? Are you sure?
Yeah, well, like I said, I wouldn't want to swear to in the court of law, but I remember being shocked and thinking to myself, what, Wales? Like you were, what, really? How many people are there in Wales anyway? And what
3
is
million.
That? Well,
3 or 4 million, it's not a lot.
I mean, have they ever heard of condoms? What the heck, man?
Wow. I'm amazed by that figure. I mean, I'd have to verify that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that seems rather high.
I'm quite happy to be corrected on that, because I was really
that seems ridiculously high.
But anyway, there are hundreds of thousands of children being aborted in the UK as a whole. So if they weren't, that would be good. The other thing you can do is, I know it's going to be more controversial. But I've suggested it before, but you didn't want to listen. Maybe you will listen now. Let's not tax women.
That's a big chunk of money. Why? But that means if you're not taxing women because you're expecting them to be mothers only.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh,
I know they can only be mothers in terms of the reproductive of the, it's only mums that can have women that can have kids.
More importantly, there won't be taxpayers, so they can't vote.
Oh, that's a separate thing that you keep banding on about, which I'm not agreeing with. The government would lose a huge amount of money. And
yes, but that huge amount, but they're not losing a huge amount of money. They're investing it. They're investing it in their own population growth.
Yeah, but it's a problem, but it's not as big as you. It is a big problem, but it's a problem that the individuals will have, not the country, if you know what I mean. They would go, well, your problem, you should have had a private pension. They could just turn around and go, right, no longer state pension. In the next 20 years, just be prepared. We can no longer do a state pension.
That would not solve the population problem. Because what you said is that to solve the population problem, I said two things: ban abortions and stop taxing women. That would definitely build native Britain population.
I'm not sure that that's the problem. I think they're looking at the fact that there's not enough people to look after old age pensioners.
No,
as you get older.
I gave you that solution, and you said you didn't want that solution.
No,
that solution is to tax the childless.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we're running out of time here, unfortunately. I mean, this we should devote more time to, really, because I don't have an answer. I don't think.
Let's bring some guests on. Yeah,
I think we're going to have to take this on again because it's a contentious one for sure, and no one really has an answer because no one in the Western world who have got declining populations or not growing populations, no one's declining apart from South Korea and Japan, I think, but others will follow very soon. If they don't fix this, then they're going to have to deal with immigration, and they're going to have to accept immigration in order to fill the void. Yeah, they will. They'll have to.
I think Japan is prepared to go to the wall. I mean, they know where they're headed, and they just accept it. I think
they actually seriously consider, because they've been quite an insular in terms of
they don't want anyone.
Population.
They don't want people from overseas.
I know they don't, but they've seriously had to consider it now because their population growth is negative. And that is not sustainable.
I've seen empty villages. I've seen villages where they're like one little village I saw, which is, by the way, astonishingly beautiful, sort of nestled in hills and, with gardens and whatnot. And there were like 9 people left in the entire village, and they were all in their 80s or something.
Yeah. You see that they have to consider opening their doors for integration. They just haven't had it up to now.
I watched a video on YouTube where they were asking people, and the people were like, "Nah, they don't want."
But who's going to look after them in old age? They're just going to die out. Well, that's an interesting one. Okay, sum up then. Do you have an answer, or should we just park this and come up with an answer, or guess?
You've poo-pooed 3 good answers I gave you.
No, I haven't poo-pooed them. I've just said they're interesting, but they're not. That need more thought because they seem a bit aggressive in terms of.
That sounds like a poo-poo to me. So I think we can leave it for another day.
Another time.
Invite some guests in. If any listeners want to write in,
exactly, absolutely. We encourage any listeners to, if they've got any strong views on this particular subject or have a solution, please comment and put it forward, because we will certainly revisit this topic and have you on the show to discuss it. So yes, please have those comments coming in, as we said before, on any platform you care to use that you consume our show on. Okay, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.
Bye.